This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Moroccan King Mohammed VI accused Algeria of derailing peace efforts pertaining to the Western Sahara conflict.
King Mohammed VI gave a speech commemorating what is known as the Green Rally, in which he expressed official dissatisfaction with the Algerian position. The king said that it was counterproductive to the Rabat Plan, which calls for giving the residents of Western Sahara self-autonomy.
The Moroccans and Algerians are not accustomed to hearing the king directly criticize Algeria for refusing to open its borders with Morocco and derailing the solution proposed by Rabat for the Western Sahara issue.
Regretfully, Algeria's official position aims at derailing the Moroccan initiative. Morocco has exerted its energy to change the status quo and prevent the balkanization of Morocco and the coastal area.
اللافت في كلام العاهل المغربي هو أنه يأتي بعد يوم واحد من التغيير الذي أفرز.
What is interesting about the king's statements is that they came only one day after the U.S. presidential elections. The Moroccans feel that the Bush administration, which will be replaced by Obama's, stood with Morocco on the issue of the Western Sahara. They hope that the new administration will help bring about the desired solution.
الموقف المغربي الجديد يأتي أيضا بعد فشل 4 جولات من المفاوضات مع الصحراويين في نيويورك.
The new Moroccan position also comes after the failure of 4 negotiation rounds with the Western Sahara delegation in New York. The international envoy, who was assigned to the Western Sahara issue and was supposed to appoint an American to succeed him, resigned. Moroccan officials made statements expressing the refusal to return to square one, but the Moroccan king reiterated that the issues of the Western Sahara and the borders are entrusted in the Algerian leadership. However, Algeria does not seem to be in a hurry to respond to Moroccan calls. Some Algerians believe that the two issues should not be linked together because Algerian-Moroccan differences are not only over the Western Sahara. Every time Moroccan officials used to speak about the importance of reopening the borders with Algeria, Algerian officials responded saying that Morocco must first apologize to the Algerians who were allegedly treated badly after the attack in Marrakesh in 1994. At the time, Algeria was accused of being behind the attack. Algerian officials maintain other conditions as well. They demand putting an end to what they call smuggling from Morocco and the ongoing cooperation between these smugglers and armed Islamists.
أهلا بكم من جديد. قللت وزيرة الخارجية الأمريكية كوندوليسا رايس في مستهل.
On the first day of her 4-day visit to the Middle East, U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice said it was unlikely for Israelis and Palestinians to reach a peace agreement this year. Rice said that Israel's decision to hold elections on February 10th has created a different situation that might make it very difficult to achieve President Bush's aim of reaching an agreement by the end of this year. This was confirmed weeks ago by several Palestinian and Israeli leaders who said that achieving progress in the negotiation process is no longer possible. However, Rice did not officially announce the failure of those efforts.
على الرغم من عدم إعلان رايس رسميا إخفاق تلك الجهود.
Finally, U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice realized that the possibility of reaching an agreement between the Israelis and Palestinians before the end of this year is not possible. Rice confirmed this at the beginning of her visit to Tel Aviv. She came to Israel knowing very well that she will not succeed in marking an achievement for Bush's administration in regards to the Israeli-Palestinian struggle. But she claimed that it is important to continue the meetings and calls to provide a firm foundation for the two new governments in the United States and Israel to resume talks next year.
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is one that should be resolved and should be ended because it will be so important to Palestinians to live in their own state and for Israel to live alongside a democratic neighbor.
The idea is to continue the process in a manner in which we decided between us before.
Rice confessed to her hosts in the Jewish state that the only obstacle in the way of reaching peace in the region was the cloudy political situation in Israel. This condition will continue until February 10th, which is the date of the legislative elections in Israel. This means that she came to save face on her last visit to the region as Secretary of State.
She came to the area to participate in the International Quartet next Sunday in Sharm el-Sheikh. This is to continue on the path of an Israeli-Palestinian agreement after the Annapolis conference. But this is the artificial excuse. I think that her visit is just a change of scenery for her.
Since she met with Israeli officials, she will also meet with the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and other officials. She will tell them what she said to the Israeli officials before meeting with the representatives of the International Quartet next Sunday in Sharm el-Sheikh.
This visit, as well as the Sharm el-Sheikh summit, is more of a farewell rather than trying to achieve anything. I don't think that the U.S. administration is capable of achieving any major shift on the Palestinian-Israeli path. Also, the international situation in Israel and Palestine does not permit any progress in negotiations or taking large decisions needed for the peace process.
Even though Rice talked about the peace process between the Israelis and Palestinians, she did not hide from her hosts that she came to say goodbye to her friends. Perhaps she wanted to assure them that the change of administration in her country will not change the U.S.'s support for Israel. U.S. forces chased a car coming from the Syrian-Iraqi border and blew it up near Duhok city in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. 2 people were killed and 2 others were injured.
U.S. helicopters chased a car transporting 4 people. The chase began from the Syrian-Iraqi border and ended in the depth of the Kurdistan region of Iraq, about 30 kilometers from the municipality building of the Duhok district. According to eyewitnesses, 1 U.S. helicopter blew up the car after it stopped and the passengers attempted to get out and escape. Meanwhile, the other helicopter landed to enclose the area. 2 people were immediately killed while the other 2 were injured. They were then arrested by U.S. forces and were flown off, leaving a mystery over the incident. Did the car originate from Syria or from the dividing line? Were they targeting Iraqis only or other nationalities?
The nature of the Kurdistan region, in terms of its geography and political relations with neighboring countries, open the possibility for anything. The car might have come from Syria, with the Kurdistan region being used as a station to cross over into the volatile areas of Iraq.
This incident is the first of its kind in the Kurdistan region of Iraq since the collapse of the former Iraqi regime.
There was no official comment by Kurdish officials on the incident. Some people have interpreted this as indicative of the beginning of an investigation and the revisiting of positions, which might include reconsidering the Kurdish readiness to host U.S. military bases. This incident proved that no place in Iraq is outside the reach of fire by U.S. forces. Security forces suspect that this is a message by the U.S. affirming its crackdown on people accused of military operations coming in from the other border between Iraq and Syria. From Erbil, this is Ahmed Al-Saleh, Al-Arabiya.
The U.S. announced that it has accepted some of the amendments proposed by Baghdad to the security agreement. The Bush administration has said that negotiations over the security agreement are over. However, some Iraqi political parties still have reservations over some articles in the agreement, while others remain fundamentally opposed to it. The British Prime Minister said that he has not taken any decision pertaining to the withdrawal of British forces from southern Iraq. Brown's comments were made in response to news reported by the British media about the possibility that British forces might be withdrawn from Iraq by April of 2009. The British Minister of International Development, Douglas Alexander, who is visiting the Iraqi city of Basra, said that there is a possibility of reducing the number of British forces due to the progress that Iraqis have achieved in maintaining security within their areas.
We will continue to work closely with the government.
We will continue to work closely with the government of Iraq. However, we will make a significant reduction in the number of British forces due to the progress and success that has been achieved in Basra. It is true that we are looking towards the middle of 2009, but based on what I have seen at the current time, we are focusing on providing more jobs and investment opportunities.
We will try to have Dr. Mohamed Al-Atifi elaborate on the position of the new American administration towards the security agreement after this report from Baghdad.
As Barack Obama, with his slogan of change, arrived to the White House, Iraqis are anticipating his future policy towards their country, especially after negotiations on the security agreement failed due to the policies of Bush, who used the language of political maneuvers and pressure. The Iraqis do not expect much from the United States because the influence of its corporations on its policy is stronger than that of the president.
American policy is determined by corporations. It does not make a difference if Obama or any other person takes office. Corporations determine U.S. foreign policy based on their interests. After Obama takes office, Iraqi negotiators must take things slowly.
Iraqis hope that Obama remains committed to his statements pertaining to setting a timetable for the withdrawal of the occupation forces from Iraq. They reject making an agreement with foreign forces at the expense of Iraq as a country and its people. If Obama is really a man of change, then a variety of problems await him, such as the security agreement, which the Iraqis reject. The Iraqis want the American forces to leave Iraq. For the Iraq Today program, Haidar Qasim, Baghdad.
نعم موقف عراقي استمعنا إليه من لندن الدكتور محمد.
We have listened to the view of Iraqis. Joining us from London is Dr. Mohamed Al-Atifi. It seems that the Iraqi government has received the American response on Iraqi amendments to the security agreement. Iraqis presented amendments to the agreement to the U.S., and it appears that the Americans have accepted some of the amendments while rejecting others.
هذه التعديلات يبدو أن أمريكا وافقت على بعض هذه التعديلات ورفضت.
In general, is it useful for Iraq to sign the security agreement with the Bush administration, which is only a short time left in office, or is it better to postpone the agreement until Obama takes office?
إلى حين استلام أوباما مهمه.
بصفة عامة يعني الاتفاقية الأمنية بين أمريكا وبين العراق
Generally speaking, the security agreement that the U.S. wants Iraq to sign is honestly unfair. Why don't Iraqis wait until the occupation ends and the occupiers leave Iraq? If this were to happen, then Iraq would be a sovereign country and have the right to sign any agreement it wants. Iraq would have complete sovereignty over its territories. Our Iraqi brothers in the Iraqi government must keep this point in mind. Iraq is in a transition period and therefore it should not make agreements. Negotiations are still ongoing pertaining to the agreement which the Iraqi people reject. Why should the government rush into signing the agreement, and why does America pressure Iraq to sign the agreement?
Iraqi citizens are deeply concerned about their symbolically significant historic and national artifacts. Talking to Al-Iraqiya, many of them said that their homes contain such objects that conserve the historic memory of the Iraqi people.
Let us contemplate the stance of this lion and what it signifies. Without any effort, we see that it is the map of Iraq. Since strength and intelligence are the attributes of the lion, then those embody the identity of Iraq. Strength and intelligence leave an effect, and fate has conserved the achievement of the ancients in the cuneiform and ancient lettering. But how connected are the Iraqi people to their ancient history so as to safekeep this historic treasure?
The Iraqi person does not comprehend his ancient past or his identity. He doesn't know it. Unlike the Egyptian, Indian, or Chinese. For example, if you ask even the simplest farmer in Egypt, he would tell you that this is a king and that's a temple.
I hear about remains from the ancient kingdom of Ur. The citizens dig in the ground, find artifacts, and transport them outside the country, where they are sold for measly amounts.
This is the problem in contemporary Iraq. There is no justice in allocation, neither in wealth nor in authority. This has led to the neglect of the Iraqi citizen and the depreciation of nationalism. So the citizen has stopped caring about his country's fundamentals, its furnishings, and its artifacts.
Perhaps we need to rephrase our question within the framework of concern for this ancient and modern inheritance. For we realize that our inquiry only increased the pain of the late King Faisal I, as seen in this picture on his deathbed. The blame his picture expressed was carried through by King Faisal II and the wisdom of Solomon, as seen in this picture. This picture was not found in an organization concerned with heritage, but rather in an antique shop. This condition extends to include the neglect of everything related to the era of the Republic. Nothing was left of that era aside from the monument of the late leader Abdel Karim Qassem. We found it in this condition, which requires no comment.
Not just anyone can safeguard these things. A normal person, like the relatives of the king, might not know about it. They see it without knowing its value, so they go and sell it.
What we need right now is a kind of awakening, or even a popular uprising, to protect these antiquities. We need to raise the awareness of citizens through satellite stations, the radio, or newspapers.
What's strange is that many international museums and organizations concerned with collecting antiquities and remains devote large sections to Iraq because of its archaeological remains, dating back to Mesopotamian culture, ancient and present. But the reality of the situation here is limited to noticing the cracks, while establishing specialized centers to house the valuable objects that only exist in the realm of wishes.
Suspected U.S. missiles have killed at least 14 people in Pakistan's northwest near the Afghan border. The attack happened in a tribal village in North Waziristan province. Pakistani officials say some 4 missiles hit a house belonging to militants. U.S. drones have carried out at least 18 missile strikes since August in tribal areas, killing dozens of civilians. Islamabad condemns the U.S. attacks as a violation of its sovereignty and says it can deal with militants by itself. Pakistan has launched an offensive against Taliban militants in Bajour district in the northwest since August. On Friday, at least 20 of them were killed when Pakistani jet fighters and artillery pounded militant hideouts in the region. Well, earlier we spoke to Aisha Siddiqa, political and strategic affairs analyst from Islamabad, for more on that issue. Here's what she had to say.
There is this disparity of forces between Islamabad and Washington, and despite that, Islamabad is very unhappy. The streets of Pakistan, people are very unhappy with the U.S. strikes, but at this point in time, there is little that the government can do for a number of reasons. One is the disparity, as I said, the disparity between American and Pakistani forces. Secondly, the government is dependent on Washington. And thirdly, since 2003 and before, Pakistan has been getting substantive aid, financial aid from the United States, so there is far greater anger against the U.S.
Syrian state television has broadcast comments by people it says admitted carrying out a bomb attack in September that killed 17 people. The 10 men and 1 woman are said to belong to Fatah al-Islam, the group that waged a conflict against the army in neighboring Lebanon in 2007. Owen Fay has more.
These are their purported confessions, read by members of Fatah al-Islam, a militant group responsible for a September suicide attack in Damascus, captured by Syrian authorities and paraded on statewide television.
We entered Syria with the help of a smuggler who gave us a ride to the Syrian border. The smuggler was Lebanese. From there on, a Syrian smuggler then took us to Damascus.
In total, 11 men and 1 woman have been arrested. They have admitted their involvement and explained how they carried out the attack.
We had to steal a car that concealed the identity of who had stolen it. So an Iraqi car was stolen.
4 people came to me and forced me out of my car, threatening me with weapons. They told me to get out and put a gun to my head.
Included in the broadcast were images of the weapons obtained by the group, as well as the money to which they had access. According to the Syrians, members of the group came from a variety of different countries, and the suicide bomber has been identified as a Saudi national. The attack on September 27th targeted the Syrian intelligence compound in Damascus. The suicide car bomb attack killed 17, and authorities in the Syrian capital say they've linked it to attacks earlier in the year against Lebanese military targets. There have been accusations made by Lebanese politicians suggesting the group is in fact funded by Damascus. These arrests are a clear refutation, with the Syrian authorities making clear that far from being state sponsors of terrorism, they say they are the victims of it as well. Owen Fay, Al Jazeera.
Change has come to America. The world reacts, but no one outside America is watching more than the people of the Middle East. What are their expectations? And can Obama make a difference? Answers to these questions and more on Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
As Americans celebrated Obama's victory in Chicago's Grant Park, Arabs, Israelis, and Iranians were sipping their morning coffee, watching live coverage of Barack Obama's victory speech. Some of them were even reading newspapers that carried the headlines, "Obama victorious." Several newspapers took the gamble and predicted the outcome.
And CNN can now project that Barack Obama, 47 years old, will become the president-elect of the United States.
Barack Obama has become the first African-American president of the United States after a decisive victory saw him take the key battleground states of Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. To tens of thousands of supporters carrying slogans of change in America, the president-elect declared,
"If there is anyone out there
who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy. Tonight is your answer.
For almost 2 years, people living in the Middle East have followed the U.S. presidential elections from afar, yet ever so close, thanks to more than 400 satellite television networks operating in the region. Coverage of the U.S. presidential elections on major Arab networks rivaled American cable networks, with Al Jazeera leading the pack. Beginning with the primaries and ending with wall-to-wall coverage on election day, Arab analysts and commentators struggled to explain the complexity of U.S. presidential elections to their audiences. They even resorted to familiar graphics and gimmicks, such as the electronic map made famous by John King of CNN, in an attempt to give their viewers a crash course on American civics. In today's papers, most editorials hailed Barack Obama's election victory. Several commentators on television said that his victory ushers in a new beginning for change in American attitudes toward the Middle East. But several others remain skeptical. Many analysts believe that Obama will certainly be a breath of fresh air, but they doubt that there will be a significant change in U.S. policies towards the region.
I do not think that there will be a tangible change in the situation in Iraq. The change of American presidents does not concern us at all. I think that the United States policy will not change, regardless if Obama or McCain are in the White House.
What I found most interesting was which topics most networks in the Middle East decided to cover on election day. Discussions about the U.S. elections outcome and its effects on the Middle East economy. The fascination with Michelle Obama. Iranians simultaneously celebrating the 29th anniversary of the storming of the U.S. Embassy and praising Obama. And Israelis questioning whether Obama is good for Israel.
There's a lot to be concerned about an Obama presidency, while John McCain is better known and I would say more amenable to enhanced U.S.-Israel relations.
The topic of race was also prominent throughout the elections. Will America elect a president whose father is black and Muslim? Asked many commentators throughout the campaign. On an Egyptian morning show, a presenter beamed when he declared Obama victorious. This proves that Americans are not racists, he boasted. Let's take a look at some of the coverage and reactions we compiled for you from several broadcasters in the Middle East.
Today, the U.S. is changing. It wants to paint a different picture. We hope that this change will reflect positively on the region. In my opinion, we shouldn't expect too much to happen regarding the issues of the region. However, any change is better than the current administration, which is about to leave office.
It doesn't make a difference which candidate becomes the president. Wherever this election heads, I hope it would be to the benefit of Iran.
Obama calls for investing $160 billion in the next 10 years in clean energy projects. He wants to reach a point where 25% of electricity is generated by clean energy projects.
Anyone who is elected as the U.S. president should open a new page with our country, which has suffered a lot for more than 35 years. Amidst this occupation, it continues to suffer with the lack of our freedoms, lack of our independence, and not being allowed to handle our own security.
John McCain is the person that is best for Israel. He has a long-standing track record of being a friend of Israel. And that's, I think, what as an Israeli and as an American citizen, I think that's what we're looking for.
If the Americans come down from their current position against Iran, it might be possible for us to have relations. If not, in that case, I don't think there would be a way forward.
I do believe by tomorrow the next president of the United States will be Barack Obama, and hope he will win. As a Palestinian, I would like him to give more attention to the Palestinian problem.
I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mosaic.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.